Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to build this lumber rack. I just moved into my new shop and I need somewhere to store my lumber, and this thing is going to be perfect. To build it, it's going to take 3 10-foot 2x4s and not quite a whole sheet of 1/2-inch plywood. You're also going to need some 1 1/4 sheetrock screws and some 3-inch wood screws and some glue. And that's about it. Doesn't take much. Alright, first we're going to need some 2x4s cut to 4.5 foot and ripped to 1.5 inches. So that's going to leave you with 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches square. You're going to need 4 of those. Then we're going to need 16 2x4s cut to 14.5 inches. And then we're going to need 32 pieces of 1/2-inch plywood cut to 8-inch by 8-inch squares. Next, we want to take our 8-inch blocks and cut them into this shape. Now, what I did is I measured here 3.5 inches, the width of a 2x4, and you want to cut it from the 3.5-inch mark to the point. So, what I did is I sighted down through the mark in this corner and lined it up with my saw blade on my table saw. And I took my miter gauge and I set it at that angle, and it just happened to be 62 inches for me. And then I took a stop block and clamped it to my miter gauge so that every time I make a cut, it's just perfect. So through the 3.5-inch mark to the tip of the square. Now we're going to fasten our plywood to our 2x4s. Now, as you can see, I have the plywood sticking out 1 7/16 inches so that your your 1.5 inch board that's running up and down your wall can slide into that, and you can screw in this way. Now, I have it actually hanging over 1 7/16 inches, not quite 1.5 inches, so that I can be certain that this 2x4 will come in contact with that upright. Now I'm using 1 1/4 sheetrock screws to attach this, and I'm also gluing it. Glue's cold. Tag it with a brad nail. Flush with the top. Alright, now to fasten your 1.5-inch strips to the wall, first I started off by putting my first one up, making my mark the correct height that I wanted on the bottom. Then I just simply leveled up on it, screwed it to a stud, be sure it's in a stud, and then I leveled across to the next stud and made a mark and screwed that one to the stud level. And now I made another level across, made another mark on the next stud. And I'm just going to put it up to my mark, make sure I'm centering my stud. Screw it in. Now I'm just going to level up on it and screw the rest of these screws in, and it'll be there for good. Now it's time to attach these pieces to the wall. Now, these aren't actually screwed or nailed yet. They actually are just holding themselves in there because they're kind of tight. But first I knocked them in all the way to the wall. Be sure this 2x4 is tight up against this other 1.5 inch piece that's against the wall. Then I took my square on this end one and I just made sure it was square, made sure it was flush with the bottom. Then I have this rip of 1/2 inch plywood that I just scrap left over that's 8 foot long, and well, that's the That's the length of my lumber rack. So I laid it up across there, and now I'm getting every one of them flush, or all planing the same level. And then once I do that, I'm going to take my plywood, set it out here on the end, and check them again to make sure they're planing. And they aren't quite doing it. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to keep playing with them and keep moving back and forth, get them all planed and get them just right. And I may have to teeter-tot one or two a little bit, but it's not going to hurt. Alright, well, I've got them all planed. That took all about 30 seconds to do. A lot easier than I thought it was. Now I'm just going to take my 1 1/4 sheetrock screws, and I'm going to put probably 4 in each side of every one of these. And just keep going up, and it won't be long, you'll have a lumber rack. Well, I actually put 3 in each side, and this is the first one I have done, and I just tested it because I didn't know how strong it was going to be, and I can put 150 pounds on it, and it's not going anywhere. Super strong. So 3 sheetrock screws are good, and I didn't glue this, just in case in the future I want to move it up or down, or do something, or take the lumber rack down and move it somewhere else. I can easily do that. Well, there's your lumber rack. This thing actually went on the wall a lot easier than I thought. It was actually pretty simple. But I think it's going to be plenty strong, and it didn't take very long to build it. And I wouldn't call this a heavy duty lumber rack. I'd call it more of a medium duty lumber rack. But you only have 12 inches between each rack or each shelf, and 14.5 inches to store stuff. So, I think if I filled this thing up, I think it would still hold its weight and do just fine. I'd like to thank you all for watching my video. And if you want to see some more of my videos, feel free to go to YouTube to my channel, Sailing and Such. And if you enjoy my videos, please subscribe so you can stay up to date with the rest of the videos I'm going to be uploading. I'm moving into a new shop, so I'm going to be building a lot of stuff kind of like this, and some French cleats and all kind of storage systems and jigs. So please subscribe, and thank you all.